Okay guys, so now after you do your grocery shopping on the same day, there's some things you want to prep so that you can be ready for the week. For my quinoa and chickpeas, I like to make them in my Instant Pot. I have 2 of them. But if you don't have an Instant Pot, you can make them on the stove. So chickpeas, you usually want to soak them overnight. But I have noticed that if I soak them or don't soak them, it's fine with my digestive system. But if you have, it's a hard time to digest beans, I would advise you to soak them overnight and cook them the next morning. The quinoa you can cook on the stove. I just like to cook it in my Instant Pot. So with the quinoa, it's 1 cup of quinoa, 1 cup of water. Works fine. Sometimes I do 1 cup of quinoa and 2 cups of water. And I notice not much of a difference between those two. With the bread, you are going to make 2 different breads. So if you don't have 2 pans, that's all right. Just make 1 and then cook that one and then cook the other one later. That one would take some time, but it's worth it in the end. Okay, let me start showing you all the preps. Okay, now I'm adding them to my Instant Pot here. And I'm going to add enough water just to cover it. I'm doing this with 1 hand. Oh, look at how dirty this is. So this chickpea water is good to keep, so I will keep it once it's done. So in my Instant Pot, I crush the bean button and then I put the lid on. I don't season the beans at all because I season them as I cook them. There's that beat. So if you notice some of the quinoa is red, I ran out of quinoa from the bag, but I will make sure that I put the right amount of quinoa so you know exactly how much to buy. Now with my quinoa, I like to toast it. So we're going to insert it into the Instant Pot. And you can toast it in the oven too. It doesn't have to be toast just in here. And then I hit sauteed. And then I wait until it starts to toast. And I toast it by spinning it around. And then we'll add the water. Okay, so I have to measure the water for the quinoa to 3 cups because I put in 3 cups of quinoa. So that's 2 cups. It smells so good. I wish you guys can smell it. I actually want to do 4 cups of water. So I'm used to having a more soft quinoa since I didn't soak it. Instead of the 3, but you can do 3 if you soaked it the night before. Then I make sure everything is down. Because I'm OCD like that. And then, since there's so much quinoa, I like to, well, pressure good. I like to cook it for the 2 minutes instead of 1 minute that I normally do. And I put the lid on it, and I let the quinoa cook. So as the quinoa is cooking, I want to preheat the oven to 400 for the breads. And then I'm going to line this paper, this pan, just this small pan, with parchment sheet for the zucchini bread. And then I get another pan to do the blueberry one. Okay. You can use a food processor to break up the berries, but I wanted chunks of blueberries, so I just mush it with a smasher. So a quick story about me. So you notice I'm like really scraping this bowl, getting everything out. Is when I was younger, my mom told me that the homeless people dig in our trash cans. And I was thinking, I don't want homeless people to dig in trash cans for food. So I make sure I have no food in my trash cans so that they don't dig into my trash cans. So now with my food, I make sure I get every last bit so that homeless people don't dig in it. I know I'm kind of crazy, but that's why I sat there and took my time and scraped that. Anywho, this bread was so good. You eat it with agave and it's so good. It's really simple to make and it's just a nice little sweet flatbread. So you bake them in the oven. They take about 20-ish minutes to bake them depending on how firm you want it. The blueberry bread, I didn't want it to be too hard. I still wanted that softness. So I only cook it for about 15 minutes and it was fine. And then the zucchini bread, I did cook it for that full 20 minutes. So my food processor only holds up to 3 cups. So I just use 3 cups of walnuts to make the walnut butter. So the walnut butter is really good with some crackers, so I eat it on raw crackers. It doesn't taste like peanut butter. It does taste like walnut butter. It tastes like walnuts. So if you're not a huge fan of walnuts, you can do Brazilian nuts. See, I'm not a huge fan of Brazilian nuts, so that's why I use walnuts. But they are really good with, it's a good replacement of whatever you eat peanut butter with, use walnut butter. And it's a good source of fat. So the walnut butter is done. It's nice and thick. You can add oil if you want to it. You can flavor it up. But I like to make it plain because I flavor it up throughout the week. Okay. So let's transfer this into its container. I like walnut butter so much. It's so good. I also make a walnut butter cookie. If you want that recipe, just like this video. Okay, for the recipe for the walnut cheese, it's 1 cup of walnuts, 2 tablespoons of key limes, 4 tablespoons of oil, and then about 8 tablespoons of water to help with the thickness of the cheese. And this cheese is so good and it goes fast in my house. I don't call it cheese in my house because people have issues when I call nut cheese cheese. So I just said nut cheese, or I just call it walnut spread. But it's good. Everyone likes it. And this is me feeding the water in. So guys, you notice my processor is broken at the bottom there, so I need a new one. If you have a favorite food processor, just put it in the comments below. Thanks. So look how creamy that looks. Then I'm just going to add it to a container. I usually make the walnut cheese every other day or every 3 days, depending on what I plans to eat. We do add it to our burritos. We add it to our pizzas. It doesn't melt, but it is a good like cheese flavor on top of pizza. And I usually eat it with some vegetables like cucumbers. It reminds me of cheese. You do have a little hint of walnuts, but it does a good job at replacing the cheese. So here is the apple bars, and then here is the cheese, the walnut cheese, and then here's the bread. It came out very nicely. I'm waiting for it to completely cool. Here is the blueberry bread for snacks. So I got 2 snacks, well, the cheese and the bread. And then the quinoa is done, and the beans are done, and the kale. So looking at this might actually be a little more than a week. So if I do have extras, I'm just gonna freeze them because quinoa and chickpeas can be frozen. And then that's one thing out of the way. So that's a good tip, is that you can freeze whatever you make in bulk. So if you want to make it in bulk for a whole month, you can. Anything to save you some time and also to help with keep it on the alkaline way. Oh, I forgot to show you one more thing I prepped. So another thing I prepped was the walnut butter. Oh, missing the arm. But there's the walnut butter in its container. Hi guys, sorry for the mess. I am moving. But with this beginner guide, the prepping took about 2 hours. So make sure you plan on that. Shopping took less than an hour, and then prepping took 2 hours. And only because we had to wait for things to cook as they were cooking. After I did all the prep, and that food was actually it was enough for the 7 days. For the next couple of videos I will post, it'll be videos of the food and what I ate for each day. And then if you want the printable guide for the amounts that I bought and the recipes, just look in the description below and you can print out that guide for you, and you can use that to help you keep on the alkaline way. Since I have started this beginner's guide, it's been about a month, and I have been able to stick to Dr. Sebi's way more than I have before. Because before I would be like, oh, it's dinner time or it's lunchtime. I don't know what to eat. Let's just grab an apple and then let's go to a fast food place that sells vegan food. Because I am fully vegan, so I don't eat meat or dairy. I cut that out before I changed to the alkaline way. But since I have this guide, my first go, oh, what could I eat from the guide? What I'm in the mood for, or what I have time to make on the alkaline way. So make sure you print that guide and help you stay healthy and strong. And thanks for watching my video, and I will see you next week. Bye.